I can do this with my eyes closed. It's too easy. It's too easy. I can do this with my eyes closed. It's too easy. Too easy. It's too easy. I've been there, done it, seen it. Boy, all that like Keenan. Still got crack, they fiendin'. Flow still hot like Phoenix. Shine so bright, I'm gleaming. This off top, I'm tweaking. Fresh out the rat like Neiman. And I'm still tryna fight my demons. But we all gotta act like Tina. That's why I gotta ride with the Nina. Outside, it's a war going on. Maybe put my hands on my head like the Macarena. They want you walking on board like Kima. And give an F to you like John Cena. Putting blood on the brand new Beamer. Tryna earn 8 stripes like Adidas. You get cold when you ride with the heater. It'll turn you to a dog like a Keeta. And expose to a cat like a cheetah. They smoke my partner like reefer. Dímelo porque o no entiendo. Mi gente must really need Jesus. They shed real blood. I never seen the crypt and I believe it. It's too easy. Too easy. I can do this with my eyes closed. It's too easy. Too easy. I can do this with my eyes closed. It's too easy. Too easy. I can do this with my eyes closed. It's too easy. Too easy. It's too easy. I've been there, done it, seen it. Y'all just talk, don't live it. And just took that route, that seen it. Now I'm so outspoken like Reason. Jimmy Neutron, boy, young G's. And I'm a self-made man out of Sweden. And it's still off top, I'm tweaking. But I still gotta fight my demons. I ain't no good, I'm evil. I ain't been clean since Eden. It's a war going on outside. Make you put your hands on your head like the Macarena. That's why I gotta watch my demeanor. You know they locking up blacks and Latinos. It's the same old game, ain't nothing really changed but the mileage on the meter of the beam.
What's going on, guys? Welcome into the WAG show. It is episode 23. It is Wednesday, March 15th. If you're watching this on Twitter, sometimes it messes up with the third party, so I would recommend watching it on YouTube or Twitch. But regardless, we are here to talk about today's best bets. We're here to fill out an NCAA bracket for, I don't know, the first time on video. I haven't given out my bracket on a video before, so we're going to be doing that. Be talking about the bracket. If you guys have any questions, I can answer them at the end of the show. We will talk NBA props, so I can pull up the prop predictor, and we can go through that for tonight's NBA games. If you're listening back to this on iTunes, because the show does go on iTunes after, I will try to make sure I clearly state who I have winning each game, since you won't be able to see the bracket on the screen. But yeah, we're going to dive in. So if you guys, first of all, we did another March Madness video. It's live on the YouTube channel. Go watch that. It was myself and Dom. Dom, very knowledgeable about college basketball, so he provides some of his insight. If you have already watched that, I kind of talked about how I play March Madness. Given that I've played daily fantasy sports for so long, I think it's very easy to attribute a bracket contest to a daily fantasy sports tournament, especially because we're actually able to see the public pick percentages of everyone's bracket prior to the contest locking. So it's essentially like playing a DFS contest, but you can see the ownership percentages prior to lock, which is a pretty big deal. Basically, I'm trying to decide how I want to build this bracket, because very much like DFS Showdown, I think you need to have a plan for your bracket prior to making it. So you kind of need to know what type of contest you're playing in, how many people are going to be in your group, what the scoring is. I'm going to say, like, we'll build this for a typical, say maybe, 100 to 200 person group. If you're playing in something bigger than that with like 1,000 people or more, I think there's more merit to being a little bit more contrarian in the spots where it makes sense. And then if you're playing in one with like 30 people, you really don't need to get too crazy. You just need to hit your champion and then, some other stuff along the way. So that's kind of how I look at it. I'm going to pull up the bracket. We've got news flowing in all day. Aaron Rodgers confirmed going to the Jets. Ja Morant went to counseling for like one day. This is nothing negative against Ja Morant, But if you enter counseling, that guy was literally there for like 1 day. Like, did he even get a full day of counseling? I would love to know. But I digress. I'm going to pull up the bracket here. Hopefully you guys can see this on the screen. And we're going to run through it. I also don't think that questions from Twitter will pop up on this. So if you guys have questions, it's better if you go on the YouTube or the Twitch maybe to ask your questions. Juju Smith-Schuster, the Patriots on a deal, which is good for them because they don't have very many receivers. But all right. So when looking at the data, obviously I have the bracket pulled up here. When looking at the data early in the week, it was very, very heavily in favor of Alabama being picked as the champion. They were the far and away most popular champion. They were being picked like 23% of the time. Houston was down at 10% of the time. Then it was a 13% gap. That gap has closed, but it's still a sizable gap. We still have Alabama as the most popular pick, and they're being picked still about 4 to 5% higher than Houston. They're being picked almost 20% of the time in brackets. Houston has crept up to like 15%, which I expected to happen because when we did that first show, it was Monday. So, not very many people were filling out their brackets on Sunday night or Monday morning. But I still think that Alabama is at a place where they can't be picked. They per 538 and some other there's other websites that project out the likelihood of teams winning. They only have about a 14 to 15% chance to win the tournament. They're not favored. Houston is still favored. They're 5-1 in Vegas, 4.5-1 on DraftKings to win the tournament. So I really can't remember recently when the overwhelming favorite hasn't been the most popular pick. I'm assuming that tonight more people will be filling out their bracket. It's going to close even further, but I doubt it closes by 4%. So it still looks pretty likely that Alabama is going to be the most popular champion pick, which means that I'm going to be fading them. So like I said, you need to have a plan when you go into your bracket. If you go in and you're like, I'm going to pick Alabama to win. If you're going to pick Alabama to win, you're going to have to be weird in other spots since they are the most popular champion pick. If you're going to pick even Houston, who is now the second most popular pick, you're still going to have to be weird in some other spots. Not overwhelmingly as weird as you would have to be if you picked Alabama, but you're still going to have to be a little bit weird. Whereas if you're taking a team like Texas, any of these other teams, Texas being picked like 6% of the time, most of the other teams are being picked under 10% of the time. You can be a little bit more conservative since you have that leverage later on with your lower owned champion. Ryan, East region giving me a headache. I think that's the hardest region. I think if you hit your champion and you get the East region close to being right, you're going to be in a great position to win your bracket. But anyways, like I said, I'm going to go into this with a plan of I'm not going to be picking Alabama to win my bracket. I also think that Houston is the best pick, especially because they're winning a quarter of the time per 538. They're winning a quarter of the time pretty much per Vegas, but they're not being picked that high. So I still think that there's value in taking Houston. I'm probably going to have Houston. I think they're the best team top to bottom. I think Sasser's going to be fine. I think if he needed to play last weekend, he would have played. So I think Houston's the best team. I'm probably going to pick them. But if you're going into your bracket and you're not going to take Houston, then I think if you're not going to pick Houston to win it all, there's merit to having Houston not make the Final Four. Have Houston going out to Texas, or if you want to pick someone else, Texas A&M maybe. But if you're going into your bracket without Houston winning, there's merit to having Houston not make the Final Four. If you're going into your bracket without Alabama winning, there's merit to having Alabama not make the Final Four. So that's kind of how I'm going about it. We'll start off in this South region here. Bama, they'll have no issues with that first game against Corpus Christi. Second game here, Maryland, West Virginia, I think is interesting. West Virginia is favored in the game. They're a 2.5-point favorite. They're being picked less often to win this game than Maryland is. Maryland over 50% picked. So I think the common sense says that you just take the favorite in the game. We'll take West Virginia. If you guys have any questions during this, ask in the chat, and I can answer them. San Diego State and Charleston. This is a popular upset pick. I've seen a lot of people on Charleston because people just like Charleston, I think, as an underdog. People also don't like San Diego State. People don't like the Mountain West. The Mountain West have been absolutely terrible in the tournament recently. San Diego State is one of those teams. They haven't won a tournament game in years. But I think this San Diego State team is good. I think this is hopefully the year that they can string at least one win in there. They're so good at defending the three that I think it's actually a good matchup for them. So I'm going to take them. So I think a lot of people will take Charleston there, but I'm going to pass. This is another, not a popular upset pick, but one that I think makes a little bit of sense. Just given how Virginia plays, like, I think Furman matches up well against them, especially with Vanderplas out for Virginia. They're not going to be able to score as well. They actually are one of the worst first-round picks per the numbers. They're just being overpicked. So I think that if you want to take Furman here, you can. Now, can Furman really win 2 games? I'm not sure. So I think you either take Virginia and then you take San Diego State over them, or you take, like, I think you're advancing San Diego State regardless, for me personally. I'm also going to take Alabama over West Virginia. So whichever team is coming here is going to lose. So there's kind of like merit if you're in a large field pool to just get the leg up and take Furman. If you're in a smaller pool, you can take the safe route. I'll put Furman in just for fun, but I don't really think it made NC State. I've seen a lot of people on NC State. Creighton is a team that I'm going to be very high on this tournament. The numbers love them. They're a good team. I've been on them all year. If you guys remember, I tweeted out a few weeks ago, actually, a list of teams that I was going to be higher on and lower on than everyone else. And Creighton was on my list of teams I was going to be higher on. So it's kind of just worked out to where I want to be higher on Creighton. And the general public is off Creighton, especially based off how they performed in the Big East tournament against Marquette. So I think it just works out that we're going to be pretty high on Creighton. So I'll be advancing them. Baylor, I think, could lose. I'm not a huge Baylor fan. I want to fade Baylor. I don't think they're very good defensively. I'm going to take them to advance, but I don't hate anyone taking them to lose. This is a really interesting quadrant of the region here. Utah State, another team that provides just really, really good leverage in your bracket. They're favored by 1.5 points to win the game. 538 gives them a 65% chance to win the game, but they're only being picked 40% of the time. More people are picking Missouri than Utah State to win this game, but I'm very high on Utah State. I think they're a good team. If they get hot from 3, they can upset literally anyone. So I'm going to take Utah State. Arizona will have no problems with Princeton. Princeton likes to play through their big guy, and I don't think that's going to work against Arizona. So I think Arizona easily might be a team I bet on, even at a big spread, and I think they're going to destroy Princeton. I'm going to go region by region and not for all first round and all second round. That's just too complicated. So I'm just going to fill out a whole region, and then we'll go on to the next one. All right, Bama. We already advanced those two, so we're at Creighton and Baylor. I think Creighton can upset Baylor. I think Creighton matches up very well against Baylor, especially inside. So I'm going to take Creighton to move on. Now, this is where it gets interesting because I don't like Alabama. Like, I've already decided that I'm not going to be picking Alabama. And I think this is also where the game theory comes into play. So if you're building, say, if you're building a bracket and you're like, I know for sure I'm taking, I'm not going to take Alabama. You want to open that path up for your other team because, like, you want things to happen that, you want things to break right for the team that you're picking. I'm going to be on Creighton here to go on to the Elite Eight. So I think that it makes sense to take Arizona getting upset. I think Utah State's capable of an upset, especially, like I said, if they get hot from 3. So people might disagree with that. I know a lot of people like Arizona. I mean, if you look at the numbers, they are being slightly overpicked in that second round. They only have about a 68% chance to win that game, but they're getting picked almost 80% of the time. So there is some slight leverage into fading them. But I think, like I said, when it comes into the game theory aspect of it, like I want to advance Creighton regardless. So I might as well take Utah State in my bracket to gain a little bit of leverage, and to potentially, it would make sense. I would rather Creighton match up against Utah State than Arizona. Although they did play earlier in the season, Creighton and Arizona, it was like a 2-point game. So I think if they rematched, I still think Creighton could beat them. Ryan, you have Utah State over Arizona. Good. I'm high on this Utah State team. They're 18th overall in KenPom. And when you're getting into these mid-majors that want to make runs, most important is they have to be very, very good at something. Utah State's very, very good at shooting the three. They're top 10 in the country in three-point percentage as a team. So if they just happen to get hot, they can win. And they just lost to San Diego State in the Mountain West championship game. But there was a questionable call. Jake Funk hit a three late in that game to take a 1-point lead, but the refs waved it off. They said that he didn't get it off in time for the shot clock. I don't think that call should have been reversed. So there is a world where Utah State is like what wins that game. And I think people would probably be looking at them a little differently had they just beat San Diego State. But anyways, we're taking Utah State over Arizona. We're taking Creighton over Utah State. You can take San Diego State over Alabama if you want, since we're not going to pick Alabama to move on. But it's fine to do, like, especially in 100 to 150, it's fine to take Alabama. This is where we're going to get different. We're going to take Creighton over Alabama. Like I said, I have no issues with Alabama. I think they're arguably the best team in the country. I don't disagree with that. My sole issue is how often they're being picked relative to their actual chance of winning the game. They also have a serious problem turning the ball over, which no one seems to be talking about. Like, turning the ball over a lot can lead you to getting upset, and Alabama does turn the ball over a lot. So if they have a game where, they just happen to be turning the ball over a lot, even prior to them playing Creighton, they could get upset. So as with them being the chalkiest pick, I mean, to get an Elite Eight win, I believe they're the most popular team. Let me pull this up here. Yeah, so they're getting picked for an Elite Eight win. They're getting picked over half the time. So almost over 55% of all brackets have Alabama in the Final Four. And I just don't think their raw chances of actually getting there are anywhere near that. So I think it makes sense. I have that exact region. Perfect. That's good, Ryan. Austin, Utah State threw that conference championship game too. Yeah, dude, Austin. I know. I watched it. I had a ticket on them to win that conference tournament, and I foolishly did not hedge it. But I think that there's definitely a world where they win that game. And if you watch it, Austin, you know what I'm talking about. Funk hit that three like right as the shot clock went off, and they reversed it. There's no world where you reverse that call. So they should have been up by one anyways after that. Regardless. All right, we're going to move down to the East. This is the hardest region. This is the region everyone's struggling with. I don't think Purdue's going to struggle in their first round matchup, so we don't need to deal with that. Memphis, FAU, this is a really interesting matchup because I think both teams could give Purdue trouble in the second round. I also think that there's a huge leverage opportunity with Florida Atlantic here. Memphis is getting picked over almost 70% of the time. They're getting picked a ton. 62, 63% of the time people are, or 68, 69% of the time people are picking Memphis to win this game. I think Memphis is good. They're hot. They just beat Houston. But FAU is a good team. I know they haven't really necessarily played the competition that Memphis has. Memphis got to go up against Houston and they just beat them. But FAU shoots the three well. They have size, which Memphis doesn't really have a ton of size. But FAU has size. They're a good 2-point defense. They're a good 3-point defense. So I think I'm leaning towards FAU, but I'm also probably just going to advance Purdue. So I don't think it's going to matter. So I think it makes sense to take the lower owned one. If you want to take Memphis here, if you want to take Memphis even over Purdue, I don't hate it. I'm not on here to tell you that I'm 100% right all the time. I'm just providing you my analysis on how I'm feeling on my bracket. If you really like Memphis and you want to take him and you want to take him over Purdue, I don't hate it. The way that they play defense, like pressing, I think could give Purdue a lot of trouble. And I'm really not high on Purdue. So I think Purdue could lose in that second round matchup. I think Purdue could lose to FAU even if they match up against them. So I'm going to be a little bit safer, especially because I was already weird up top, with Alabama losing, with Arizona losing. I don't need to get too crazy, so I'll just take Purdue to move on. Really trendy upset pick here, Oral Roberts over Duke. I'm not taking that. I'm taking Duke every single time. I like Oral Roberts, but I don't know. I know they have experience winning tournament games, but they haven't necessarily showed me that this year. They played Houston earlier in the year. They got absolutely ran out of the gym. And similar to FAU, we haven't really seen them against that top-tier competition, so I don't think I need to take that upset. Tennessee versus Louisiana, another maybe trendy upset pick. I don't know what they're actually being picked. Let me pull this up. Let me see how often people are picking Louisiana. No, not crazy. They're getting picked like 17% of the time to upset Tennessee. I don't think they can upset Tennessee. Even without Ziegler, I don't think they can win that, so we're going to take Tennessee. I like Kentucky. I think there's a lot of leverage with Kentucky later on. People seem to be off them. Look, trust me, I don't like Kentucky. They've been inconsistent all year. They've lost me money twice in the last 2 weeks against the same team in Vanderbilt that they just can't beat Vanderbilt. And it's cost me money twice. But I like Kentucky, so I'm going to take Kentucky to move on. I'm going to get weird and take an upset here. Montana State over Kansas State. I'm going to take Kentucky to move on anyways. I don't love this Kansas State team as it currently. They kind of limped into this this bracket. They were hot earlier on, but they've kind of cooled off, and I'm just not super sold on them. So I'm going to take Montana State in an upset. Obviously, this is interesting because I saw someone tweeted out that only 14% of brackets have had, or 14% of years have had all 4 2 seeds make the Sweet 16. So it's very likely that one of the 2 seeds is going to lose this weekend. We obviously already picked that in our bracket because we took Utah State over Arizona, but I would not be shocked at all if Marquette loses. I wouldn't be shocked if Vermont beats Marquette. I'm not going to pick that because I don't think we need to get that weird. But yeah, I'm not super high on Marquette. So we're going to advance them, but I don't know. Not sold here. This is an interesting game. I think both these teams can beat Marquette. I'm actually probably going to take whichever team I pick to beat Marquette. I'm going to put it as Michigan State right now, but don't hold me to that. I could change my mind and make it USC. I have no idea. I haven't fully – that's one of the 2 or 3 spots I have not fully decided on yet. So we're going to go with another upset here, and we're going to take Michigan State. But it might be USC. It might be Marquette. I just haven't made my firm decision on this little section yet. What I do know is I'm taking Kentucky to the Sweet 16, and then I'm taking Kentucky to the Elite 8. You can call me stupid. No one loves anyone in this region. They're not getting picked anywhere near their actual odds to win it. If you look at a Sweet 16 win, they're only getting picked around 15, 16% of the time. I think they have a much larger chance of actually getting there. And their problem's been inconsistency. If they just play consistently, they're a good team. And they have someone like Sheboy they can lean on. Biggest question is going to be the guard play. If they can get consistent guard play, I think they can definitely make a run. So we're going to take Kentucky to the Elite 8 in ours. But I'm not on here telling you what to do with your bracket. I'm just providing my analysis. If you disagree with me, you don't have to pick them. But this section, I might take USC. I might take Marquette to lose to Kentucky. I think Kentucky can beat Marquette anyways because I don't think they can stop Sheboy. So regardless, I think it matches up well for Kentucky. This is the most interesting matchup, I think, on the entire bracket, in my opinion. Duke versus Tennessee. No one is picking Tennessee in this matchup. everyone over half of brackets that have Duke, Tennessee are going to be taking Duke because Duke's red hot and Tennessee's missing their starting point guard. What I found interesting, though, is that Duke is going to be an underdog in this game. It's going to be a close spread, but I think Tennessee will be favored. If you look at the Vegas odds to make the Sweet 16, Tennessee's even odds right now to make the Sweet 16. Duke is like plus 150, plus 160. So Vegas obviously knows that Ziegler's out, but they still have Tennessee as the more likely team to make the Sweet 16, which I thought was super interesting. I don't know what to make of it, and it definitely affects things because I want to knock Purdue off here at some point. So I feel like whichever team I take between Duke and Tennessee, I want to pick over Purdue. The problem being, I understand that Vegas knows that he's out, but it still just doesn't line up to me because Tennessee's had a better team than they have this year each of the last 2 years, and they haven't made it out of the first weekend. To be able to win games in March, you have to be able to do at least one thing really, really good. Like I said, with the upset picks, like they have to be very good at least one thing. Tennessee's thing that they're very good at is defense. But even if you look at their defense without Ziegler on the court, it plummeted a ton relative. They're like a top 5 defense in the entire country. But when you took Ziegler off for those few games, they were nowhere near top 5 in the country. So that certainly affects things like offensively because he's the main ball handler, but it looks like it affects them like defensively too. So it's just a really weird situation that I don't know what to make of. I don't really think you can go wrong here. I think if you take Purdue, I wouldn't do it because I think Purdue's being overpicked. But given the path that they have, I don't hate it. If you want to take Tennessee, I think that's a smart move because no one's taking them. And then if you want to take Duke, I think that's fine because they're red hot. I have actually took a future on Duke to win this region, and I took a small future on Duke to win the national title. So I'm going to pick Duke, especially because I'm already so weird in my bracket. Like we already have Creighton in the Final Four. I don't think we need to get too weird, like taking a Tennessee or something. Does Duke's big man match up best with Edie? Yeah, I think they match up fine. Duke definitely has the size to match up with Purdue. Now, they played Purdue earlier on in the year. Purdue won. But I don't want to put a ton of stock into that because it was in November. Like these teams are so much different than then. Duke specifically because they're more of a young team. So they're going to be playing better basketball now than they were in November, obviously, as they just won the ACC tournament. But Duke definitely has the size to match up with Purdue, yes. So I'm going to take Duke, but I don't think you can go wrong here. I think if you want to be weird and take Tennessee, if you're in like a really large bracket pool with like 5,000 people, you want to take Tennessee, I think that's fine. For mine, I'm going to take Duke. And then I'm going to take Duke over Purdue. Another reason I like this Elite Eight game, I'm 99% sure, is in Madison Square Garden. Tell me that the universe doesn't want Duke versus Kentucky in Madison Square Garden in the Elite Eight. Because I'm pretty sure it does. I'm pretty sure it's set up perfectly for Duke and Kentucky in Madison Square Garden. I'm just saying. Now, who to pick between Duke and Kentucky, I think is a very interesting conversation. I think most people will be taking Duke in that instance. I think Duke is a safer pick. I think in a 200 or less people, 150 or less people, I think you take Duke. I think in like 300 and up, 500 and up, 1,000 and up, I think you take Kentucky. Because when you break it down, when you get to if this game does come to fruition and you have it right, everyone that has that most likely is going to have Duke advancing. So you're going to feel like if you fast forward to that time, like you're going to feel like you want the leverage of having Kentucky over Duke because most people will have Duke. So if you're in a really big pool with a big money up top, I think taking Kentucky is a smart move. In a smaller pool, I think taking Duke is the smart move. So I'm going to take Duke in this one, but I will have some exposure. I will have some exposure to a Creighton, Kentucky Final Four matchup. I will say that. But I'm going to take Duke. And as you can see, we're pretty weird off the bat here. We have Creighton and Duke, a 6 and a 5 in our Final Four, but that's okay with me. Moving on to the Midwest, Houston, taking them easy Auburn gets a home game. Don't need to dive into that much. It's a coin flip game. I'll give the advantage to the team that's literally at home. We're going to take Auburn. Miami versus Drake. This is one of my favorite upsets. I've made a couple videos about it. I'm taking Drake. It does look like Miami is going to get their big man back, but basically, if you're looking for teams to get upset early, they always fit a mold of being very bad defensively. Bad defense is one of the number one signs of a bigger name team, bigger seed getting upset early, which is partially why I think Purdue will not make the Final Four. Purdue's defense is not good. Relative to other one seeds, their defense is very bad. And that's another reason why I don't think they can make a run to the Final Four. But they got gifted this strange region, so maybe by some happenstance, because their region's weird, they can get out of it. But Miami's horrible defensively, and in a close game, there's a reason this game is only a 2.5 point spread in favor of Miami. There's a reason for that. So I'm going to take the upset with Drake. I'm also going to take an upset below them here, and I'm going to take Kent State. You guys know I don't want to say I'm biased, but I'm a fan of this Kent State team. I think they're very good. I think they're a bad matchup for pretty much every team in the tournament. They defend crazily. They force a ton of turnovers, and in addition to forcing a ton of turnovers, they don't turn the ball over a lot. They can shoot they have multiple guys that can shoot well from three. As a team, they're not great, but they have a few guys that can shoot the ball well from three. They have underrated interior defense for not having size. If they can limit Jackson Davis at all, I think they win this game. Like, they're going to be able to lock up Hood Scafino, I think. So I think that Kent has a very good chance at winning this game, and I think Kent has a chance of making a little run here just because of how good they can defend, how many turnovers they can force, and I think they're better than a 13 seed. And the MAC has had some success in the tournament recently as well. So I'm going to take a weird game here, and we're going to have a 12-13. I'm also going to take Pittsburgh over Iowa State. So I don't love this Iowa State team, and kind of how I was looking at it is I was going to pick Iowa State if Mississippi State won. I thought they matched up better with them, but with Pittsburgh winning, I'm going to take Pittsburgh over them. And we've also seen these play-in teams. Like, I feel like one of them makes a little run every year. So we're going to go with Pittsburgh. Xavier over Kennesaw State. Don't love Xavier, but I don't think Kennesaw State can really match up with them. Texas A&M and Penn State is an interesting game. I think that I know Dom really liked Penn State because they shoot the three, and Texas A&M kind of just dares you to shoot threes. So if the three is falling, I think Penn State will win this game, but I think Texas A&M is the better team overall. So I'm going to take Texas A&M. And then I'm going to take Texas over Colgate, no problem. This is where things get interesting. We're taking Houston over Auburn for sure. In the 12-13, they can go either way here, coin flip, but again, I'm going to lean on that dominant defense from Kent State. I'm going to put Kent State in the Sweet 16. Also a good stat that I think the last 14 years, a double-digit seed has made the Sweet 16, at least one. Last year there was multiple. So it's good to have at least one of them. We have Utah State, and then we have Kent State. And we might have Pittsburgh, too. I'm debating if I want to take Pittsburgh over Xavier. But getting back to this, Kent State over Drake, no problem. And then we're going to take Houston, obviously, over Kent State. So we have Houston in the Elite Eight. Texas A&M and Texas is a very, very interesting matchup. I think the numbers would say that there's a ton of leverage in picking Texas A&M in this matchup. Their actual chances to win the match are over 22%, but they're only getting picked like 14% of the time. So I do think there's merit, especially if you're not taking Texas to the Final Four. There's merit in a bigger tournament. Like if you're playing with a ton of people, like I've talked about a few times, I think there's merit to knocking off Texas here. Now, I'm not building my bracket specifically for that right now, so I'm not going to do it. But I will say I'll have some exposure to Texas A&M over Texas. I'm also going to take Pittsburgh over Xavier because I don't love Xavier. Haven't been the same since their big man went down. Like I said, I want to have one of these play-in teams making a little bit of a run here. and then we're going to advance Texas past them. So we got a little crazy on the left-hand side of this bracket, but we're pretty chalky here with the 1 and 2 meeting up in the Elite Eight. And then, like I said, I love Houston. I think they're the best team. We're going to take Houston to the Final Four. Finishing up with the West. Wait, what did you say, Ryan? In a smaller pool, would that warrant? Yeah. So if you're local to Duke, I guess, yeah, that would make more sense maybe to take Kentucky. For sure. Kansas, no problem over the 16. This is an interesting game. I think the leverage would say Illinois is a better pick. I like this Arkansas team. They've made a run the last few years, so it's tough. I also think both teams can beat Kansas. I don't love Kansas this year. I think they're being vastly overpicked to win this region. I'm going to take Illinois, but if you want to take Arkansas, it's a coin flip. I think that's fine. This is a popular upset, VCU over St. Mary's. We have enough upsets already. We don't need to get weird with that, so I'm just going to take St. Mary's. This actually is turning in, I think, to like a little trendy upset is Rick Pitino and Iona over UConn. Let me see here. What percentage people are picking Iona? Yeah, they get picked like 15% of the time, so nothing crazy. But I've heard some chatter about it. I'm going to stick with UConn. I love UConn. You guys know UConn has been my team all year. I tweeted it out a few weeks ago. I already have I had a future in on them to win the title prior to like conference tournaments and brackets and all that stuff. Like, I think they're a very good team, top to bottom. I think they have one of the best starting fives in all college basketball. I know Hurley has struggled in the tournament, but I think this is arguably his best team. So hopefully they can string some wins together here. I'm taking UConn. TCU versus the play-in. That game's tonight. I think Nevada's going to win that game, but we'll see. I'm going to take TCU. Gonzaga over Grand Canyon, no problem. This is another interesting spot. I just made a TikTok talking about 3 games that you need to take in round 1. Boise State is like a 1.5 point dog. Northwestern has to travel a far way to play this game, which typically doesn't bode well. Boise State actually is more likely to win this game than them per some of the numbers, and their Northwestern is the popular pick. So we're going to take Boise State, and then we're going to take UCLA. I talked about it on the March Madness video with Dom. This is a really fun game, UCLA, UNC Asheville. I don't know if UNC Asheville can really keep it close, but super fun offensively. They have Pember. They have Tyjon Jones. Those guys can take over, especially if Tyjon Jones is hitting threes. Pember can shoot very well from 3 as well. So, that's not a cupcake first game, even though I think UCLA is way better. But it's just UNC Asheville's a fun team to watch. So we're going to take UCLA. We're going to take UConn over St. Mary's. If you're in a big pool, like I said, with Texas losing to Texas A&M earlier, if you want to take that, you could take Illinois over Kansas here. But I don't think you need to do this in most of the stuff I'm playing in because we're going to take UConn over Kansas. Love this UConn team. Don't like the Kansas team. If you look at the Sweet 16 numbers, Kansas is one of the most over-picked team right now. They're over 70, around 70% of all brackets are picking Kansas to go to the Elite Eight. I think UConn is a better team, so I love getting that ownership on UConn when I think they're top to bottom a better team than Kansas. This little section right here is very interesting. I think you can build a case for all of TCU, Gonzaga, and UCLA to go to the Elite Eight. I think that Gonzaga, like Miami, fits the mold of a team that typically can get upset. Now, Gonzaga is terrible defensively. They have been all year. That being said, the last time we saw Gonzaga play was their conference title game against St. Mary's. They defended the best that they've defended all season. So I think it creates an interesting situation where if you want to build the case that like a flip switched and they're going to defend better, I think they beat TCU and I think they can beat UCLA. If they don't defend as well as they get against St. Mary's, even without Lampkin, I think TCU can beat them, and I think UCLA certainly will beat them. So this is a very, very interesting section to pick because I think you can take UCLA or Gonzaga, and then to a lesser extent, I think you can take TCU as well. It's very, very challenging. I've went back and forth on it a few times. I think the safest route is to just advance UCLA to face UConn, and then you figure out if you want to take Gonzaga in the upset. I think that's the safest route. If you're playing in a large field bracket pool, I think there's merit to taking either of Gonzaga or TCU to defeat UCLA and go up against UConn. If I'm looking at Elite Eight win percentage, let me see here. So UCLA is getting about 24% of brackets to go to the Final Four from here. Where's Gonzaga is? Gonzaga is getting about 18% to go to the Final Four, or to go to the Elite Eight. Oh no, that's wrong. I'm looking at Elite Eight. So Sweet 16 win percentage. Gonzaga is getting 37%. UCLA is getting almost 50%. So it's pretty much 80% are taking Gonzaga or UCLA. So in a larger pool, maybe it makes sense to go TCU. It's just a weird situation because the numbers say that Gonzaga is a fine pick, but at the same time, they don't really fit my mold of a team that can make a decent run because of how bad they've been defensively. So it's a tough spot. It's a tough spot. I think we're probably going to take Gonzaga over TCU for the safer play. And then I think we'll probably take, I guess, Gonzaga over UCLA. That would be a fun game. Gonzaga versus UCLA would be a really fun game. So we're going to take Gonzaga, and I'm going to take UConn to go to the Final Four because, like I said, I think they're the best team in the region. And I think they match up perfectly fine against which offensive team will take. Yeah, I don't know, Austin. It's such a difficult. Honestly, that little section for me was as hard as trying to figure out the East region. Because I just don't know what I want to do, and I may change my mind before brackets lock tomorrow. I might take you. I might just take UCLA. I might just take UCLA there, and then have Gonzaga or TCU losing. I don't know. I have no idea. It's very tough. I do know that no matter what, I'm going to have UConn in the Final Four. So it kind of makes it a little bit easier. But deciphering that little section right there is tough. I'll have to think about it more. But I'll leave UCLA in there for right now, actually. And then we'll move on. So for the Final Four, I think if you're playing in a really small bracket group, you should probably just have Houston, UConn, Alabama, and then either Duke or Kentucky in your Final Four. I think that's probably what you should have. And then you can pick Duke over Bama. You can pick Bama over Duke. And then you can take Houston. You can take Houston to win it. I think that's perfectly fine. For ours, we're going to definitely take Houston over UConn. Another reason I like Houston here is if Houston happens to match up with Gonzaga in the Final Four, I think they'd try. I think Houston's the exact type of team that would just decimate Gonzaga. So if somehow Gonzaga makes it to the Final Four, I think Houston would smash them. As far as Creighton versus Duke, large pool, over 300 people. You're taking Creighton versus Houston, and you're taking Houston to win. If we're being a little bit safer here, we're going to take Duke. So I have Houston over Duke. Houston winning. Final score, I don't care about it. That's our bracket. I'm going to go back. I'll read this off for you guys on iTunes. So our Sweet 16, we have Alabama, San Diego State, Alabama moving on. We have Creighton, Utah State, Creighton moving on, and then Creighton over Alabama to the Final Four. In the East, we have Purdue versus Duke, with Duke moving on. We have Kentucky versus Michigan State, Kentucky moving on. And then we have Duke over Kentucky to the Final Four. In the West, we have UConn versus Kansas, with UConn moving on. We have UCLA versus Gonzaga, with UCLA moving on. And then we have UConn over UCLA to the Final Four. And in the Midwest, Houston over Kent State, Texas over Pittsburgh, Houston over Texas to the Final Four, Houston and Duke in the championship, and Houston winning it all. That's my bracket for like a pretty normal bracket pool, I would say. 100 people or so. I think we have a good mix of being weird and not being too weird. I think Houston's the best pick to win it all. I think Houston's the best team. And we're just going to ride them. I'll take a picture of this. I'll post it in the Discord. BetKarmaChat.com. You can get free access to the Discord if you download the BetKarma app. There's a link to the chat room right in the app. So you guys can go ahead and join up. I'll post a picture of this bracket in there at some point today. So you can just copy it and you don't have to go through the stream. But overall, that's my bracket. Good luck to all you guys in your bracket contest this year. We are going to talk a little NBA props. That only took 40 minutes. Not too bad, I guess. What is your bracket? James Miller, buddy. I just went through my bracket for 46 minutes. So if you joined late, I will post a picture of my bracket in Discord. This is your bracket, final bracket. Yeah, I think for like my main contests, which are like 100 people and less, this is like the bracket I'll be playing. Yeah, I think so. In my larger field ones where there's like 1,000 people, I'll probably put like Kentucky over Duke in the Final Four to be a little bit weird. But overall, I think yes, this is my main bracket that I'm going to be playing. Yes, I'm pretty firm on Houston winning it for my main bracket, and I'm pretty firm on Creighton taking the leverage with Creighton over Bama. It doesn't even have to be Creighton, just not picking Alabama. I'm biased towards Creighton because I have been all year. You can check my tweets. I've been tweeting about them for 4 weeks. I think they're a very good team. As long as they don't get in foul trouble, I think their starting five matches up with any team in the country. So I'm a little bit biased towards them. But not taking Alabama, I think, is leverage. I think it's the smart move. And taking Houston, I think, to win is the best pick. I think Houston is the best team. I think they've been the best team. I was on this Houston team last year. They went to the Elite Eight, and that was without Sasser. They were banged up last year. They're more experienced this year. Starting five, top to bottom, is absolutely disgusting. As long as Sasser is close to 100%, I think they're very clearly the best team. And I think stylistically, with how they play, it's really hard for a lot of teams to match up with them. They're so aggressive, rebounding the ball. They're so good. They're just as good offensively as they are defensively. They're just a tough team for a lot of these college teams to match up with. So, yeah, I do think this is my main bracket, James. But I'm going to pull up Prop Predictor. We'll go through some props maybe for today. If you guys have prop picks, you can post them in. I know a couple people in Discord had asked about some props. So I'm going to sign into the Prop Predictor. And we'll pull it up. Thank you guys for tuning into the stream. I really appreciate it. It was fun to kind of go through that bracket. I've never filled out my bracket on the video before, so that was pretty fun. All right, I got the Prize Picks Predictor up. Let's see what's jumping out here. If you guys have never seen this tool, this is the Prize Picks Predictor. This can be accessed for premium members at betkarma.com. It has our projections for all the players on Prize Picks every single day. You can sort it by the raw projection. You can sort it by the differential between our projection and the line on Prize Picks, which is how to identify value bets. Spike, hit the like button. Exactly. If you're in here, like the video. Been on here for almost an hour. Yeah, this is a great tool. We've had a ton of people joining up since we started doing the stream. We would love for you guys to sign up for a month at least to try us out and get in the premium Discord. But yeah, so Jaren Jackson is a player that the predictor has liked a lot the last few weeks since Ja went out, likes him again. His over points lines at 17.5. We have him over 20. Looks to be one of the biggest differentials on the slate. This Bam Adebayo PRAs, when I did look at the NBA slate earlier, I thought it was a very good spot for Bam Adebayo tonight. His PRA number is at 30.5. We have him over 33. I think that's a great number to take the over on. That's actually probably my favorite play of the day is Bam Adebayo PRAs. I'm assuming we like him over fantasy points too. We do. So if you're on Prize Picks and you prefer fantasy points, you can take him over 37.5 fantasy points. If you're not on Prize Picks and you're on the sports book, you could take him over 30.5 PRAs. I think it's a good spot for Bam tonight. I'm going to be betting him over. And let's see if anything else is jumping out. I also gave out one college bet. I give out college bets for free all throughout the tournament in the college basketball channel on our Discord. You can access that for free. We've been crushing the last few weeks, up over 15 units. So if you're not in there, you have no reason not to be because it's free. So yeah, Jaren Jackson again, really popping here. Patrick Williams is kind of popping for points plus rebounds. But overall, the value looks really, really good on both Jaren Jackson and Bam Adebayo tonight. So I think those are probably the two best plays. I saw Ja Morant got suspended for 8 games. Again, I'm not saying anything negative about Ja Morant. Can someone explain to me, he entered counseling. Was he even at counseling for a full day? Did he get a full day of counseling? I want to know. Because I don't think he did. I think I said a day and a half. I think I was being generous. No, he didn't. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Again, I'm not saying anything bad about him, but you entered counseling. That dude was there for 1 day. Overall, though, if you guys don't have any other bets, you can find me in the Discord for the rest of the night. I'll be in there. Thank you guys so much for watching the stream. I really appreciate it. I'll be back tomorrow. Tomorrow's the day. NCAA tournament begins. I'll be live 3 p.m. the rest of the week, Monday through Friday. The show's every single day at 3 p.m. I'll be live tomorrow. We'll give out some college basketball bets for the remaining games. We'll talk about our brackets. We will talk about NBA bets. Good luck with your bets and wagers on Wednesday. I'll see you guys on Thursday.